Hello and welcome to this Adobe Express lesson all about the Victorians, and today we're going to create a fact file about what life was like as a Victorian child. So to start with, from the Adobe Express homepage, I'm going to press the plus in the top left and I'm going to go to landscape. Now I'm just going to start by adding my facts and information. So I'm going to press text on the left and I'm going to go for add your text, and I'm just going to type in my first fact. So there we go, just going to make the size a bit smaller and place it somewhere on my page. And now I'm going to do the same for all of my remaining facts. So there we go, I've added my facts and information and a title at the top. Now I'm just going to add an element or a little icon to go with each of my facts. So to do this, I'm going to go to Elements on the left. I'm going to press this arrow and go to Icons. My first fact is to do with the age of the children that had to work, which is as young as 5. So I'm just going to add a little 5 icon there. For this one about rich children, go to Elements, Icons, probably just search for rich, see what comes up. Here's a little money bag, that's quite a good one. And I'm going to do the same for my remaining facts. There we go. Now this wouldn't be a fact file about Victorian children without some pictures of Victorian children. So there aren't many in Adobe Express, you could get them from another website, but if you wanted, you could just generate some images using AI, and that's what we're going to do today. So on the left here, we can go to Generative AI, and we're going to press this button that says Generate Image. Going to go for a square, that's fine, and I'm just going to describe what I would like to see. And on my content type, I'm going to make sure that's on photo, and I'm going to press generate. There we go, there's our young Victorian chimney sweep. I'm just going to remove the background by pressing this remove background button. That's looking pretty good. And now I'm going to add a rich Victorian child. There we go. Just going to remove the background of this girl and just place her down here on my page. So here we go, this is looking pretty good. Now what we want to do is really think about the design. So how can we make it feel even more Victorian and maybe even what it might have been like, the working conditions for some poor Victorian children. So I'm going to add a background. So I'm going to go to Elements, going to go to Backgrounds. I'm actually just going to search for grey. You could come up with some different ideas, but I just think a nice sort of smoggy, smoky grey really fits the theme well. So I am just going to select the background in my layers here and just reduce the opacity. So this is how see-through it is. If we just make it a bit more see-through, it's just a bit easier to read the text. We could add some other things. We could go to Design Assets. I could add some smoke. That might fit the kind of theme, working in a coal mine or a factory. So I'm just going to add some smoke on my page. Might make it a bit darker. Go to Effects, Darken, and maybe just put a couple of those on my page. Just to kind of create a bit of a smoky sort of effect. Okay, I think this is looking pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is think about the fonts. Now for my title here, going to go to the font here. It's on Source Sans 3. I could have a look through to find some fonts that I like, but I'm actually going to see if there's a handwriting font. I think this will go with the theme. Here we go, Adobe handwriting. We can just have a look. There's some different ones here. So I might go for Ernie here for my title. I think that looks pretty good. And actually for these other ones, I think I'm going to go for handwriting again. But I think Frank, this one's a little bit easier to read for our main facts. So I'm just going to go through and change the font of each of our facts. Now we're looking pretty good, but I've had a nice idea. Maybe we could underline or circle some of the key information in each of these facts. So I'm going to go to Elements and I'm just going to type in handwriting. And here we go, we've got some nice options here. This looks pretty good. So we could use some of these marks to highlight some of the key information. So maybe I'll just take this one, for example, and I could use it to make some of the key information stand out. And I could add another one, maybe for this one, I want a circle, and maybe I'll put a circle over the word rich. There we go, I think that looks pretty cool. And I'll go and do the same for some of the other ones. So there we go. I think this adds a nice hand-drawn quality to it. Now finally, I think I'm just going to add one thing just to make the title stand out a bit better. So I might add something behind the text. So I'm going to go to Design Assets. I'm going to go for cardboard. I think that might be a nice texture. This one looks pretty good. Adds a bit of brown to our page, which I think goes nicely with our theme. And I'm just going to make it the same size as the title. And then I'm just going to go to my layers and put it at the bottom layer. There we go. Now I think that is looking pretty good. So there we go, there is our fact file about what life was like for Victorian children. And now it's your turn to go and create your own fact file.